Now that the NFL draft is over, you want to know how we're going to rank these wide receivers for fantasy football draft season, don't you? You're in luck. We're going to break down our top 24 wide receivers with tiers. Let me remind you that if you want to see our rankings all preseason long, not just for redraft, but dynasty, best ball, and a whole lot more, you should really go to flockfantasy.com/endgame. Sign up now, 30% off any subscription, and you can also get early access to our draft domination course, how to dominate a redraft league, all the secrets and strategies that we've learned from years of experience. We already have a dynasty course, 2 of them in fact up. So if you want to know how to win your league right now, check it out. All right, let's get to those rankings. And in the top tier, is it going to be a massive shakeup from last year? It doesn't look like it. Who you got at the top, Chris?
I got Jefferson and Jamar Chase 1 and 2, and to me they're clearly ahead of every other wide receiver. They're in their own tier. Now, if someone wants to argue Chase over Jefferson, okay, fine. I prefer Jefferson. He's been nothing but incredible every year of his career. I do think we're going to see the best Chase we've ever seen, and I do think there's a chance that he outscores Jefferson, but still, regardless whether it's JJ or Chase or JJ, they're in their own tier here.
There's really no question here. And, it's funny because you look back a year ago, everyone was saying Jonathan Taylor was the no-brainer, number 1 overall pick, and that the number 1 receiver was Jamar Chase. And we both said, I think it should be Justin Jefferson. And that proved to be a pretty good choice. And why would I change it now? I'm not. Jefferson is just going to get better. With Jordan Addison there to take some pressure off him, it's just going to help. And then Chase, look, really, do we even have to justify having him as the number 2 guy? No, we don't. Now, tier 2, already a little bit of a shakeup here between our tiers. Now, Tyreek Hill, number 3, no doubt there. You're putting Cooper Kupp at number 4. I don't have him back in this top group just yet. Do you think Kupp just kind of picks up where he left off?
I mean, I think you have to feel that way. Stafford seems healthy. He's supposed to be in great shape. I think Kupp at this point is just one of those guys you just got to count on him until something happens and he doesn't do it. So I think Tyreek Hill has a little bit higher ceiling than Kupp. Kupp has the higher floor, but both these guys are great. And again, I just feel like they're in a tier of their own as well.
Yeah, I could regret not taking Kupp earlier, but again, this is a Rams offense. I still don't know exactly how it's going to shake out. Matt Stafford, I mean, before he got hurt, was looking pretty rough. The only guy he was throwing to was Cooper Kupp, so that was great for Kupp. He was still going off as a top receiver until he got hurt. You've got to think something's going to change. You've got to think that they looked at what happened last year and say, it didn't work. I mean, it worked for Cooper Kupp personally, statistically, but they were not winning games, and then it all fell apart. So I have questions as to whether we're going to see more of a Kupp from 2021 and 20 and before his massive breakout season, which is still great, which is still a top receiver. I just don't know if he's going to be the top receiver. And so I'm going to go to an emerging stud in CeeDee Lamb. Look, the Cowboys didn't really do much in terms of getting more pass catchers. Oh, they got Brandon Cooks, but they lost Dalton Schultz, their tight end. Now they have a rookie in his place, and I don't think there's any threat to his target share. And then Stephon Diggs, I mean, tried and true, he's still the guy there. Same thing. Bills didn't make a big splash at receiver, didn't get DeAndre Hopkins, didn't take a receiver early. Dalton Kincaid is a rookie tight end. Not worried about him eating into Diggs' targets at all. So that's who I got in my tier 2. Now we're into tier 3. Let's talk about Garrett Wilson because we're both high on him. Do you think that some people, though, might be a little too high coming draft season?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think this is right where he should be with Aaron Rodgers now. He was great last year with terrible QB play. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to force him a lot of targets. I think this is just, obviously I think this is right for him because this is where I ranked him. But this is my tier of guys. And look, I'm happy that you have CeeDee Lamb in that second tier. I love CeeDee Lamb this year. I think CeeDee Lamb, outside of those top 4 guys, has the best chance of being the number 1 wide receiver. I just feel a little bit better about those guys. But these are the guys, the next tier guys, where I feel like if you have any of these guys as your wide receiver 1, you should be feeling great. They're all fantastic players in great situations. They all have upside. These are my kind of like lock solid next tier of wide receiver 1s.
But I have to say I'm disappointed. No Jalen Waddle. I mean, come on. This isn't a homer pick, I know, but come on. You've seen what he can do. With Tyreek Hill on the other side, he put up equally massive games early in the season. And the only reason he didn't finish higher, as we know, because Tua missed so many games. I know there's risk, right? That's to say, well, Tua, his career could be over with one bad hit. I recognize that. Trust me, I'm very aware. But look what happened to Cooper Kupp last year. He got hurt and missed half the season. It could happen to a lot of players. I'm not worried about Waddle personally. Things happen that we're not able to foresee or control. But Jalen Waddle, his upside, I think to me matches any of the guys in this tier, and maybe even some in the tier above him. Moving on here, next group of guys, I feel like you want to say that they're kind of a lot of the 1B in their offenses. You got Devontae Smith, T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, opposite studs. But then there's Devontae Adams. Why do you think he slips down here?
Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, there were signs last year that maybe Adams wasn't quite as elite as he had been in previous years. Still very good. Don't go down in the comments and say, oh, you're calling Adams terrible. He still was very, very good. But there were some signs. Also, he's going to Jimmy G. And look, Jimmy G is okay, but can we really get excited about Jimmy G in fantasy supporting Adams? I'm just a little bit worried that we're going to see some regression from Adams here, not only in performance, but from his QB play. And then, like you said, these other guys are 1B. And to go on to Jalen Waddle, you're right, he does have massive upside, but I feel like so does T. Higgins and so does Devonta Smith on a week-to-week basis. But there were a lot of games last year where Waddle only got, 3 or 4 catches and targets. And sure, sometimes he would break a couple tackles and one of those catches would be a 60-yard touchdown. But I don't want to count on that week in and week out. So to me, right on the edge of the wide receiver 1 bubble, still very good. Still a player you should feel very good about having. I just feel better about the guys in the other tier that I had ahead of him.
Understandable. Look, I do have to put Devontae a little lower than I would like because you got to feel like it's not like last year Derek Carr was just laser focused on only Devontae Adams every time he dropped back. Ultimately came back to bite him in terms of lower efficiency, not getting wins for the team. Again, boosted Devontae Adams' stats a ton, but didn't help himself or the team out too much. So I know Adams might not get quite the stats he did last year, but I still feel like he's a stud. He'll find a way to make it happen. And then for the rest of those guys, I have you put guys like Amari Cooper, Christian Watson, Debo in that next tier. I'm kind of keeping them up here because I think that we could see a step forward, especially a guy like Drake London, Christian Watson in year 2, to see what they can do over an extended period of time with somewhat of a reliable passing game. And Amari Cooper, I'm putting in that group because, let's face it, without Deshaun Watson, and then even with Deshaun Watson, when he came back and played and was terrible, he didn't really get a fair shake, and he still put up good numbers with that sort of passing offense. All right, this next tier, we both have DK Metcalf, Mike Williams, kind of in that low-end wide receiver 2 range, despite the fact that their teams took rookie receivers early in the draft. Do we think that this could be maybe shaky ground for both these guys coming into the season?
Yeah, I do. I'm not as worried about Mike Williams as I am about DK. I do wonder if there's going to be, before it was just DK and Lockett getting basically all the targets. I do wonder now if it's going to be spread around a bit more. But he's still a great player. We saw last year with Geno Smith, he was still really good. I have dropped him down since they did draft JSN, though. I had him higher. Mike Williams have actually moved up a little bit, not because they drafted Quentin Johnson. I don't think that's really going to affect them, but because they got rid of Lombardi. And I think they're going to open up this offense. And then as far as the other guys, Amari Cooper, Christian Watson, Debo, this is kind of like my tier of very boom-bust guys. Like, if they're your wide receiver 2, you're feeling good about them. Some weeks they're going to go off and really help you. And some weeks they're probably going to not do much for you. But they're all very good players. They're all in good situations. So I know you have those guys in the other tier. I still really like them. Just I don't feel as comfortable about them week in and week out as the tier above. But yeah, I like all these guys as well, though.
Yeah, and I agree that some of these are guys that you like better in best ball because there are going to be ups and downs. But at this point, I mean, how many receivers are there that will put up numbers every single week? There's really not that many. I will say Debo is going to be really interesting because we still have no idea who the quarterback is going to be for San Fran. Maybe it is Trey Lance after all. maybe it's Sam Darnold. But I'm starting to wonder and worry, maybe they're going to have to rely on Debo a little bit more than they expected going into next year. And then the last group here, rounding out our top 24, I kind of want to say that these are like the crusty veterans that you can still rely on, although these guys are all probably 30 or under and far younger than we are. But still, talk to me about Calvin Ridley. I almost am worried that I shouldn't be putting him higher than Christian Kirk, but I did because I think he still has enough left in the tank, seeing as how he's only, 28 and took the year off to rest. Tell me why you think Ridley will be more productive than Christian Kirk.
Well, to be honest, I just think Ridley's a better wide receiver, and he's in that better role. Christian Kirk, the slot guy, and we saw it last year. Christian Kirk, very volatile. I think Ridley will be the number one wide receiver in this offense. Of course, the guys down here are all kind of guys where I think like they're talented, but there's either situations like DeAndre Hopkins where I don't feel good about the offense and the quarterback play, or maybe the player still has something to prove like Drake London, or even a guy like Calvin Ridley who we haven't seen play football in a year and a half and needs to prove it on a new team. And then like you said, crusty veteran like Keenan and DJ Moore. So maybe DJ Moore shouldn't be called a crusty veteran, but these are guys where like talent is there, situation should be pretty good, but kind of feel like I need to see it, and there's a little too much risk to put them above the other guys.
Yeah, and I almost feel like with some of these guys, like Keenan Allen, it's like easy to just dismiss them because they're younger players on that team, especially now they got Johnston. But it's like you can't put him too low. Like nothing happened to him. He's still a productive receiver. He's still got a solid high floor, still attached to a great quarterback. And so that's why I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit, and I'm kind of putting a tie here with Keenan Allen and DeAndre Hopkins. We realized DeAndre Hopkins last year was a top 10 fantasy wide receiver in terms of total PPR points. Now, that was with Kyler Murray. He's not going to have Kyler Murray for most, if any, of the season next year. So that's why I don't know whether he belongs really in the top 24. But I also don't feel like we can drop him that far, because don't you think now that it looks like he's staying in Arizona, whoever the quarterback is going to find a way to get it to their big target who's been a multiple-time all-pro receiver? I feel like maybe we have to give him just a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. Now you know who our top 24 wide receivers are. I'm sure you want to know how we feel about running backs. Well, we got them here for you. Check out our tiered list at running back.